Dear President Martins, thank you for your kind words of support. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I want to thank you for this rare opportunity to speak on behalf of my mother today, Yulia Tymoshenko, who is imprisoned and tortured by Ukraine's authorities now for 125 days with no guilt. Thank you for showing your support for her plight and for the struggle of the people of Ukraine, for their right to join the European family. Thank you for not being indifferent to Ukraine now, in even hardest times for Europe. I want to dedicate my speech today to the hope of freedom and to my mother, who has become a symbol of the fight for freedom in Ukraine. Unfortunately, right now, as we speak, a Kyiv court subordinated to the president is trying to arrest her for the second time on this another absurd charge. They're using it as a preventive measure in case she's released after her appeal on the 13th of December. But anyway, being in prison, behind these 3 sets of bars, my mother is more free than her oppressors because she believes in Ukraine's democratic future and its European choice. If my mother was here today, she would say that with every passing minute, Ukraine's young democracy is being systematically and cynically choked off by its regime that is based on fear and corruption. The fabricated show trials against leaders of oppositions are used to intimidate all the resistance. Ukraine's future looks bleaker with every passing day since the new regime came to power 2 years ago. There is no more division of government power. All major institutions have been captured by one person who rarely understands how to deal with his omnipotence, but he knows how to feed it with ceaseless attacks on businesses, banks, property, and strategic resources of the Ukrainian nation. Our country has become the de facto private property of President's family. Nobody even trying to mask the corruption on the highest levels of power. Once successful Ukrainians have been forced out of their homes to earn a living elsewhere. Almost every day we read of new murders. Journalists, entrepreneurs, politicians, and even pensioners are trampled under the boots of militia squads attacking peaceful protests. Students, doctors, academics, civil society, and opposition leaders have all become political victims of Yanukovych's KGB-like regime. I haven't known my country like this for the whole 20 years of its independence. Judges and courts have become puppets of the so-called High Council of Justice, which consists of people like the head of Secret Service and general prosecutor, all subordinated to the president. And I'm afraid there is no hope for my mother to find justice in the appeal on the 13th of December. Half of Ukrainian voters gave their votes for my mother less than 2 years ago. Her growing support is the exact reason she was imprisoned for 7 years. As a result of this absurd sentence, at least 12 million Ukrainians will lose their constitutional right to vote, their freedom to choose the people they want to see in the office in Ukraine. The threat of this is real, as 2 of the main opposition leaders are kept behind bars illegally with absurd, discredited charges without ever providing a legal basis. 10 cases have been opened against my mother now. Unless drastic measures are taken to save the opposition from being physically removed, our country may go back 20 years and become a one-party authoritarian state on the EU's borders once more. My mother's health is now critical. In the 4 months of her imprisonment, her trusted doctors have not been permitted to take a blood test. Even her priest is not permitted to come in and see her. According to the European Convention on Human Rights, this is classified as torture. I'm afraid that this torture might continue till they finally kill her. Despite of all this, I believe that so brutal and humiliating a power, one lacking all compassion, will not survive. Its own tactics of oppression is the reason why it is losing votes. The timing is now critical. The chance for free and fair elections next year grows smaller each day. Lust for power and self-enrichment will not let the oppressors to hear the voice of democratic consciousness that all true Europeans protect and nurture. When Zimbabwe's democratic opposition were beaten and imprisoned, Europe responded by denying visas to their oppressors. Perhaps this is time to apply the same standard to Ukrainian leadership. Is there any hope for Ukraine? My mother loves Ukraine and has been fighting throughout her 15-year political career for Ukraine to throw off its Soviet past. She believes, as does a majority of Ukrainians, that Ukraine still has a chance, that it's still possible to eradicate the Spartan of authoritarianism as soon as Ukraine makes real steps towards European standards and democratic values. That is why, as Ukraine's Prime Minister, she launched the negotiations for a deep and comprehensive free trade agreement between Ukraine and the European Union, the historical chance that has now been deliberately put under threat by Ukrainian ruler. Today, on my mother's behalf, I ask you to redouble our joint efforts to bring closer Ukraine's European future. Ukraine's people, particularly those imprisoned for their politics, can today hold their heads a little higher in the knowledge that here in France, the birthplace of the rights of men, their suffering is being heard and heeded. I'm proud of my mother's stoicism and political courage. In the face of increasing cruel persecution, she continues her work on necessary amendments to Ukraine's constitution. Maybe her vision of free and just and prosperous Ukraine is idealistic, but it is a brave and passionate vision. And no more impossible dream than the visions of Václav Havel and Lech Walesa and so many others who brought half of Europe into freedom 20 years ago. She, together with her team and allies, believe that our common mission will find success in a free Ukraine that can sit proud beside you in the family of European nations. I would like to conclude in my mother's words. Somewhere behind the prison walls, the sun is setting, but I firmly believe that soon it will rise again above my dear Ukraine, and it will be the sun of freedom, of honor and greatness of free people which deserve a future in united and free Europe. Thank you very much for your support again.